welcome back to Handmade Not Hallmark. Today I've got this fun paper piecing tulips card. I've been wanting to do this idea for a long time, but I was trying to find a good stamp set that has some nice thick lines, and it was fairly easy to kind of cut the pieces out, and this one was absolutely perfect. I love the way that it turns out. I think it's really striking and a fun way to use up some pattern papers. I hope you enjoy. Let's get into it. Today I'm using the Mother's Day Tulips stamp set from Simon Says. I'm also going to be using the Inside Kindness stamp set from Honeybee, as well as a variety of pattern papers from my stash. I'll make sure to link to the ones that I used in the description box below, but I just went through and found ones that I really liked. I'm also going to be using the Bitty BUZZWORDS from Honeybee as well. So the first thing that I wanted to do is I wanted to stamp down my main image. So this is the image that we're going to layer all of our paper piecing images onto. Now, I've seen a lot of people do paper piecing with characters, with clothing, those sorts of things, and I've always wanted to give it a try because I have so much pattern paper that I have a tendency not to use it. And I really love this pattern paper that I purchased, and I wanted to try to use it in a floral design. But I needed to find a stamp set that has some really thick lines. It wasn't too overly complicated, but was simple enough to kind of get the theme or the idea down. So this Tulips die was absolutely perfect for this. It has really nice thick outlines, and it's super easy to cut the pieces out and get the effect that I was going for. So I'm using some craft cardstock, and I'm going to stamp down my main image with some black ink. This is just some Simon Says Intense black ink. You can use any black ink that you like. I just wanted to have a nice, solid, crisp image to layer on my pieces. And I just love this stamp set. I think it is so beautiful. Next, I'm going to go in with my pattern papers, and you have to make sure that you're okay with using up quite a bit of your pattern paper, and because a large portion of the pattern paper is going to be wasted because you're not going to use it. So use pattern paper that you might have multiples of, or that are scrap pieces, anything like that, and you're just going to go along and you're going to stamp the same image down onto those pattern paper colors so that you can trim them out later and use them on the card. So I've got a green here for my leaves, or my stems and things, and then I've got this really cool kind of like, it almost looked like alcohol inks and things like that. Again, I'll have the name of this one listed below. I can't remember off the top of my head right now, but I really love the look of this. I really think it's cool. It kind of adds to the look of tulips that are kind of the ones that are multicolored, and they have all sorts of pinks and orangey colors. I think it's really fun. Again, just go along and stamp your image over top of the pattern papers that you want to use. And again, like I said, you're going to be using lots of pattern paper for this, so make sure it's something that you're okay with using up. I really like this kind of bluish green color as well, so I'm going to use it for my my stems and my leaves in addition to the other green one. I felt like it really went with the pinks that I have stamped earlier. Once you have everything stamped up, you're going to start fussy cutting. Now, if you're not into fussy cutting, this is probably not a style or a technique that is for you. I personally struggle with fussy cutting, but I think this image was so simple, and the lines are thick enough that you can kind of take your time and you don't have to worry too much about being absolutely perfect. When I first started out, I started out with trying to cut on the inside of the black lines because I didn't want to have any black lines because I already stamped black lines earlier. So I thought, well, I can just cut them out and I can just layer over top of the black that I already have. Well, the problem is that this does have some detail in the petals and in the leaves. So cutting them out completely away from the black wasn't really ideal. In certain situations, it was okay. I went ahead and cut those out. But in other areas, when it came to the actual florals, because they have all of that line work, it just didn't make sense to cut around all of those lines. It would be very time consuming, and you can have a tendency to mess up. And if you have limited types of cardstock or pattern paper, you don't really want to waste it with messing up. So for this first part, I'm just kind of showing you how I started out with my idea with cutting along the inside of the black lines. It worked okay for this area with the stems and this bottom leaf, But once I got going and I realized that it was just going to become more difficult for myself to cut around all of those black lines, I went ahead and just cut around the main portion and left all the detail on the inside. So you can see here that I'm kind of trying to cut in between the black lines, and at first I was like, oh, this is going to work out great. But then once the pieces started getting really thin and fiddly, I realized that maybe I should just try to cut the main area and keep the rest intact. So this is kind of where I'm going with this. I'm cutting out the colors of pattern paper and I'm going to glue them down to my main area here. And you're going to see that it's going to look like I've colored in each of these images with either, you know, a colored pencil or anything like that. And I think it's a really cool idea. You get a little bit of dimension because the cardstock or the pattern paper is lifted just a little bit from the base. And I think it's really cool. I wanted to try this idea for a while when I saw this pattern paper that I purchased, but again, I couldn't find a really good image to try it with. And then when these tulips came out, I knew that this was the image to do that with, and I was glad I got an opportunity to work on it. So here you're gonna see I'm gonna start cutting out this little bud here, and I tried doing the same thing with this one, cutting on the inside of the black line. It worked okay with this particular image, but I could have just cut out all around the edge and left that center piece so I didn't have all that fiddling and fussing with. So I'm gonna speed through this process here a little bit just because it's a little bit, I don't like to say time consuming, but it's not very thrilling or exciting. I'm just going through and I'm cutting out the images. Once I get a few cut out here, I'm going to jump ahead to when I have everything cut out that I wanted to use on this particular card, and I'm going to show you assembling it and getting the card all finished. So here you can see I've got all of my pieces fussy cut out of the pattern paper, and I'm going to just start adhering it down. So on this top petal you can see that I did try to cut out around the black lines, and it worked out, but on the smaller pieces I really struggled with it. So on the middle floral, I decided to cut out just around the perimeter and left all the inside pieces whole. So I think this is a better way to do this technique. I still love the way that it turned out. I think it's absolutely beautiful. I love the pattern paper that I chose, all the different colors. It looks like an alcohol inked image. Like I went through and I inked up these on their own. And I just think it is so fun and beautiful. And adding the different gold accents later on I think adds to it as well, because there's a little bit of gold coloring in the pink portions of the pattern paper. So again, I think it is a lot of fun. I went through and I cut out all of the stems and the leaves from the different green cardstocks, and I love that some of them have a bit of blue in it too. I know that there's not very many, I don't even know if there is any stems out there that are blue. I could be wrong. There's probably some obscure flower or floral or some kind of plant out there that has a blue stem. I know it's probably not realistic, but I just think it went so perfect with these pinks and this pattern paper that I used that I just left it, and I thought it was really cool. Last couple of pieces gonna fit in here, and what we're gonna do after I have all of those kind of set in place is I will trim off the excess and kind of square up this card. And I wanted to I didn't want to lose a whole lot of what I had going on. That's why I think I really like this set, because it kind of fits neatly into one side. So you do get quite a bit to work with, and then it's kind of going off the edge for you, kind of adding to the interest that it kind of goes off the edge, which I really like doing in florals and other sorts of cards. Gonna get that last really skinny stem put in there. I probably could have trimmed this portion off, you know, kind of cut majority of that off, but I really like that kind of where it goes off the edge. So here I'm gonna kind of make sure everything's pressed down nice and neatly, and the nice thing about this Barely Art adhesive glue is that it dries fairly fast. So when I go to trim this off, nothing shifts and moves around on me. Now that I was happy with that, I'm going to get my card base ready. I'm just using an A2 size top folding card base, and I'm going to stamp the tulips on the inside. If you follow me for a while, I know I mentioned this in all of my videos, I use the Simon Says Fog ink almost every time that I create a card, especially one with a big floral, just because I think it looks really pretty. But before I get into that, I wanted to get my greeting done. So I decided to use the friend die from the Bitty Buzzwords from Honeybee, and these come with the font and then it comes with a shadow. So I die cut the friend die 2 times out of white cardstock and 1 time out of a shiny gold cardstock, and then the shadow portion I cut out of vellum. And this has become my new favorite way to add vellum. I like to stack up 2 layers of vellum. It leaves just enough that you can see behind it, but it gives it a little bit more stability if you don't have a really heavy vellum. And it helps hide adhesive as well. So I like to use a glue stick and kind of coat the entire piece of vellum. And I apologize if my head gets in the way. My hair was an absolute mess this day. And I just wanted to make sure I got that lined up right over top. And it looks so pretty. I love this really shiny gold. And I think, again, it goes with the whole gold kind of going on in the pattern paper. So once I had that adhered down, I'm going to go ahead and add the little dot on the eye. And I try to just stack those up individually instead of trying to fit everything in at once. I just took the little dots and I kind of lined them up and just stacked them on top of each other separately. Next, I'm going to go in with my Art Philosophies metallic watercolor set, and I'm going to add some gold splatter. This is again where I wanted to add more gold to it and kind of add some interest to the background, and I went a little crazy. I really splattered this heavily, but I think it looks so great, and I just love the look of gold on craft cardstock. I really think it's elegant and pretty. Again, you could totally leave this step out. You don't have to do this. You could do white, which I think would be really cool. You could distress around the edges and make it kind of look like a vintage picture, which would be really neat as well. I just wanted to go with the gold because there was gold in the pattern paper that I used. Once I have that all done, I'm going to clean up my space here and we can work on the rest of our card. So here's where I'm going to stamp on the inside using that same tulip die, or excuse me, tulip stamp. And I want to stamp it along the edge. And because it's taller than the area that I want to stamp in, I'm just going to mask off the top portion of the card base so I don't get any ink on the top. Going to stamp that down using that fog gray ink. I think this is a really nice staple in your kind of ink stash. Because it is so subtle, I think it really goes nicely with florals, and you can still write over it nicely and not have any issues. Gonna get that folded back over, and I'm gonna work on the second portion of our greeting here. I'm gonna adhere down the main panel, and this is when I decided I wanted to add that second greeting. At first I was gonna use the hello from the Inside Kindness stamp set, so it said hello friend, but I felt like I needed something a little bit longer, so I decided to go with the friend thing, you're so kind, excuse me. And I think that one worked out really well. So I'm going to go ahead and get that stamped down, get all my pieces put away here. And I'm going to stamp it down using some black cardstock, some embossing ink, and some white embossing powder from Brutus Monroe. Again, if you follow me, you know this is one of my favorite ways to add a greeting. I know this might bore some people doing the same things over and over again, but if it's something that you're comfortable with and you like the way that it looks and it goes with your style, I think there's nothing wrong with kind of sticking to what you know best and what you like to do. You can switch it up different ways, you know, do different, you know, pattern papers, do different cardstocks, anything like that. But sometimes I like sticking with what I know and what I know looks really nice and kind of goes with my own personal style. Going to use the coordinating die to cut out that greeting, and we can get to assembly of our card. I just love how this looks. I think it looks so fancy and elegant. I think this would be a wonderful card for a friend that you may not see all the time, or somebody that has done something for you. I really think they would love this card. I didn't get enough adhesive down on my friend, so it shifted on me, so I had to add a little bit more adhesive to the back. And the nice thing is that there's a nice wide areas on this friend die that you can hide some of the adhesive behind it. I'm going to pop up the You Are So Kind sentiment on some 3D foam tape. just to add a little bit more dimension. I was going to add some sequins to this, but I decided there was enough shine going on with the greeting and the gold splatter in the background that I decided not to do that. Once I had that adhered down, that will finish up this card for today. I really hope you enjoyed this paper piecing tulip card. If you did, please hit the like button and consider hitting the subscribe so you don't miss out on any more videos here at my YouTube channel. I really appreciate all of the support and all of the likes, and I can't wait to share with you the next videos here at my channel. I hope you have a great day. I'll catch you again real soon. Bye!
On screen, I've got a few videos that I think you'll enjoy. Consider hitting the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any more videos at my YouTube channel.